Hello and welcome to Retire Early Lifestyle. Now, if you hear any noises in the background like hammering and skill saws and that sort of thing, it's just Frank working in the house. So, sorry about that. We're going to make a comparison for the purposes of initiating this conversation. The laws in almost every state in the USA are similar in that it takes a long time for a squatter to legally take over someone's property. Squatters only have rights in the USA if a home has truly been abandoned for many years. In USA, squatters don't have rights until 5, 10, or 15 continuous years of living on the property. In almost every instance, they also must be paying property taxes and improving the property in some way. But our question is this: who leaves their home unoccupied for that long? It would seem abnormal for anyone to voluntarily even consider such a thing. There are extreme circumstances where owners don't have family and they die and leave their property. But beyond the exceptional reasons, another group that does this more than they should is expats. They do this when they have a home abroad and a home in the U.S. Usually that's okay when your home is a condominium, but rural land and home properties on land, that's not a good idea to leave it vacant for longer than just a few weeks. We're going to talk more about that in a minute. Let's first finish about squatters' rights in the USA. In most states, not only does a squatter have to be living in the home, but they also have to show proof of a title to gain rightful possession. And of course, that will be difficult to do unless they're truly the owner of the property. Due to current extreme political conditions, individual states are now putting up more laws on the books, making it much easier to evict squatters. Here's what some of the states are doing. Some states have updated their laws in their state because they know this is a growing problem and a big concern for many American homeowners. Consequently, these 8 states have recently tightened their laws in favor of the homeowner, making squatting a criminal offense. And these states are Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Nevada, Tennessee, Washington, and West Virginia. No worries, if that's not one of your states, legislation has just recently been introduced to bolster property owners' rights against squatters in these 12 states. This is happening right now as I read this. These states are North Carolina, South Carolina, Louisiana, Michigan, Mississippi, New Hampshire, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Oklahoma, and Pennsylvania. So this is all very good news. We posted the details of the article below in the description. You might want to look at it if this issue is a potential concern for you, because some legal reforms in states like Georgia and Florida are coming together to make it far easier to get rid of squatters. Just to give you an idea of how a squatter would even begin to actually enter into possession of a home, it is clearly not easy. For instance, even in a state like California, a state that some would say has gone rogue, reports that squatters can only claim your home if they continuously live in it for 5 years and also pay the property taxes for every year they are living in it. The law is on the books. That means squatters really do not have any rights unless a state's own laws unlawfully gives it to them. We're seeing a lot of fear-mongering on the internet about this subject, but if you know the laws of your own state, there is really nothing to fear. However, the squatters' rights narrative is working double time trying to pull the wool over the American homeowners' eyes and instill fear in homeowners. Of course, any lazy, non-working, unproductive person can break into an empty home, which is criminally trespassing, and pretend like he owns it by camping on the floor for 5 years and installing something new and call it an improvement. If this happens to you, here is our suggestion. We recommend not trying to evict the unproductive, lazy person on your own, but do the research first and find out what the laws on the books are for your state and take it to your local police station. You know, the ones who are hired to serve and protect. Hand them the law and tell them to protect you. If that doesn't work, go to your local county sheriff. And if that doesn't work, write or personally meet your local senators and tell them what is happening. Get other homeowners involved. The more voices heard, the better. Below is a link to the updated squatters' rights laws in every state in the USA in the description of this video if you're interested in more detail of each state. And by the way, this is updated for 2024. So let's talk about squatters' rights in Latin America. If you ask us, it will be much more difficult to get a squatter out of your home in a third world country because of the wishy-washy laws like right of possession laws and things like that. Some people move abroad, buy land, and then leave it vacant until they're ready to develop it or whatever, and that would be a big no-no in the Latin culture. Great due diligence is the order of the day when it comes to buying property in a foreign land. We've heard of a few stories about gringos buying property without a clean title. Not sure why in the world they would do that unless they were scammed, which does happen from time to time. Foreigners have to be very cautious in the property markets abroad. Do your diligence before purchasing. Make sure the title is clean and don't take people's word for it. Do the research on the title yourself or hire a lawyer to help you. We do not recommend to leave land and homes on lots or land vacant for long periods of time unless you have a caretaker watching over it while you're away. We've heard of a few horror stories there. Let's talk about squatters' rights in Costa Rica, which happens to be the #1 best country to live right now, according to the Retire Abroad media for 2024. The rights of the squatter in Costa Rica are very lax. Some reports say that within 30 days of camping on your property, they have some rights. Here's what another report says. If only 3 months go by with a squatter in your home in Costa Rica, and if you don't report him or her to the authorities, they're the new homeowners of said property. How can that be, you may be wondering? Well, this is Latin America. Sorry, we don't make the laws, we just report on them. If you don't report squatters to the authorities after 1 year, you'll have to go to court. A very long and pricey consequence of leaving your home unoccupied in Costa Rica. Squatters become homeowners much easier in Latin America than in North America. Panama has similar laws, and about 25% of the property on the market today in Panama is what's called rights of possession, ROP, which means properties that are not titled with a title company. Squatters or buyers of these properties can become owners within 15 years of being on the property and improving said property. Buying ROP property is risky and you shouldn't do it, but they are cheaper and it can be a way to get property for a really low price. And what about squatters' rights in Ecuador? Here's what they're saying on the Ecuador expat forums about buying land or rural home in Ecuador and leaving it unoccupied, like so many expats do for one reason or another. If you do not live on your property full time and it is not a condo or gated community, but off on its own as you describe you would like, strangers will claim your place for their own, more than likely. It is the Ecuadorian way, it seems. The property we purchased 3 years ago has been claimed by 2 separate parties so far. We were in the USA at the time. The person doing some construction emailed us the following. So-and-so said that your lots are not yours, but it's theirs. When you're living several thousand miles away, this type of news can be somewhat alarming. Building and sinking your money into someone else's property perhaps is a big deal. In both instances, we were lucky. The locals helped us. One local said, "Welcome to Ecuador." Another complication with Ecuador is much of the Amazon indigenous tribes believe the land already belongs to them. Anyone coming in and buying up Amazon jungle property better be ready for the consequences from the natives, where one tribe in particular is said to be violent and will do whatever it takes to get you off their land. We know of a story firsthand. We made a video about it of 2 brothers who moved to the Amazon, bought land near native tribes, and they ended up being framed for murder, and they had to spend 6 years in an Ecuadorian prison for doing nothing but buying some ROP land in the Amazon. Just a warning. Now let's go to Mexico. In Mexico, it is happening in a more grandiose scale, with thousands of squatters teaming up in the resort town of Tulum and Cancun in Quintana Roo. Locals are angry and resentful because they're getting pushed off their land by foreign development. Sound familiar? This type of squatting is on a different level than we are seeing in other parts of Latin America. A foreign development company is building a resort-style condominium complex on 340 acres of squatter land. These are built especially for foreigners, and the units are sold by the US dollar. The land is apparently public land owned by the Mexican government and has been used by the citizens for years and years, and now they're coming along telling them to move along, we have to build these condominiums for more foreigners coming to Mexico. The locals are not going along with it. They're fed up with big development coming in and taking their land that many say were born and raised on. We added the source article for the above story in the description below this video if anyone wants the details. So remember, if you or someone you know is having difficulty in the States with a squatter and the state isn't doing anything about it, you do have a recourse, but first, find out what the laws are in your particular state, so you appear as if you know what you're talking about and can stand your ground and stay on point about the law or laws according to your specific circumstances and situation. So folks, that's all for now. It's a deep subject that has many different avenues that we could explore according to the different states in the US and regions of the world. But that's why we put the link below so anybody can peruse it at their own leisure. One thing is for sure, we have to be really, really careful nowadays what we do with our assets and personal property. At the moment, it is probably best to only rent out your home to persons whom you know you can trust. We hope you enjoyed that. Take care, stay safe, and be blessed. Bye-bye.